Warning, the following program contains news talk, solutions, and information not found in filtered media outlets. Viewer discretion is advised.
Attention, you are now about to enter
Filter-Free Radio.
So open your mind, push reset, and reboot your computer.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Looking for filters? Check your coffee maker. This is Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott. FilterFreeRadio.com. Get ready to suck down some grounds.
When I talk about resistance, I think we have to stand up now and carry out acts of nonviolent resistance.
Because the truth is, we do have power.
We live in revolutionary times, but the counter-revolution is winning.
Sounds like a case of the Mondays.
Live Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. FilterFreeRadio.com.
This is my favorite show.
We have been given an opportunity to make a new beginning.
And I think it's very important for us to start to build a culture of resistance because what we're doing isn't working, clearly.
It's our job to very coldly assess reality and then figure out how to respond.
Your number one source for unfiltered truth, analysis, and solutions. FilterFreeRadio.com.
It is so good to be with you this episode live. It is March 10th. 2014 episode, Filter Free Radio episode 108. We are broadcasting live on filterfreeradio.com, radioornot.com, live on the TuneIn app, on tunein.com, on Liberal Justice Radio, thanks to the man Kenny Pick. So much coming up in this program. Huge show. Coming up in the second hour, I've got to tell you about a huge no coal export protest that happened right here in Portland, Oregon. Now, you probably didn't hear about it because, well, things like this tend to go unnoticed, unfortunately. But not here at Filter Free Radio. We're going to talk about the coal protest. As you can tell, I've got photos and I've got the signs. You see the coal signs behind me all the time, right? So we got to talk about that. Big protest happening in Portland over the weekend. So cool. The younger generations are getting involved because, hey, they're the ones that got to deal with it, right? We're the ones that got to deal with it. Very impressive speech given by an 8th grader, a middle schooler I'm going to share with you from that coal protest. Super cool stuff. Also coming up in the second hour, we made the news. Filter Free Radio, I was featured in a new article by Logan Brown for the Independent Voter Network. Independent Voter Network, it's IVN.US. The title of the article, More Voters Turn to Independent Media for Content They Can Trust. You can read that article at our website, filterfreeradio.com. We're going to get into that also in the second hour of the program. Play the interview that I did with Logan for that article as well, coming up in the second hour of the program. It's going to be a jam-packed show. Hopefully, we'll be able to take your calls. I always encourage your participation. You can call our comment line and tell us what you think about anything, anytime you want, 24/7, 503-746-TALK. It's 503-746-8255. Email jacob@filterfreeradio.com. You can Skype into the show, Jacob_Dean. We're on Twitter at Filter Free Radio, and of course, Facebook.com/Filter Free Radio. Mr. Skeptical Scott, our super duper awesome mass producer and co-host, kick-ass all around brother from another mother. He is off this evening for good behavior, working hard, working real jobs to pay real money. Scott is off tonight, and you can check out a few articles that Scott has been posting at the Facebook page, facebook.com/Filter Free Radio. If you just scroll through that thing, you'll read so much. It's so good. But there's a huge news story happening right now that I want to get into, and we're going to get into a very special guest interview right now on the program. A primary election is often the most important part of the electoral process. And by denying over 2.6 million New Jersey voters the right to cast a vote in the primary election, the state of New Jersey has disenfranchised nearly half of its electorate and hereby given private political parties and partisan voters a greater and unequal access to the voting franchise. As a result, New Jersey's elections are not free, they are not equal, and are not constitutional for the reasons demonstrated herein. That sounds like a big deal, right? There's a lawsuit happening, and hopefully you've heard about this, in New Jersey. A lawsuit has been filed in New Jersey federal court challenging the constitutionality of partisan primary elections. The idea being, I thought all of us have an equal say and an equal vote in the voting process, but maybe we don't.
Hello.
And
Please state your name after the tone.
Oh goodness. Okay, let's give that just a second here. I'm about to get on a very special guest. Let's try the phone again here. And our special
Hello.
guest.
Please state your name after the tone.
Uh-oh. Dun dun dun. Access denied. Okay. Let me do an introduction real quick, and then give our guest a minute to get to his phone. Chad Peace, we're going to be speaking with Chad Peace, one of the guys behind this lawsuit. Actually, Chad Peace is the legal advisor to the independent, the IVP, which is the national, he's also the national legal strategist to the Independent Voter Project. The InPartisanship.org coalition was founded by the Independent Voter Project and IndependentVoting.org, which are both national 501c4 nonprofit organizations. The coalition includes a diverse group of independent organizations, media outlets, election reform advocates, and other participants from across the political spectrum and from across the country. And the complete current list of coalition members can be found at InPartisanship.org, which is the coalition's website. And the InPartisanship.org coalition is the first organized effort to defend and promote the principle that every voter is entitled to an equal right of meaningful participation in the election process, whether or not they choose to affiliate with a political party, especially an establishment political party. And I'm trying to get Chad Peace on the line here with us. And Chad Peace is the president and founder. Keep getting the voicemail. Dang it. Well, let's I'll give him another couple minutes here. Chad Peace is the president. He's a busy guy, right? He might be hard to get a hold of here. Chad Peace is the president and founder of IVC Media, LLC, which, of course, is dedicated to helping nonprofits, candidates, and other political causes by giving them the tools they need to be competitive. Over the last 5 years, Mr. Peace has managed and developed campaigns to increase grassroots voter involvement, to draft candidates to run for U.S. Senate, to promote California's Proposition 14, which is the nonpartisan primary initiative, and to reach out to otherwise ignored and otherwise disenfranchised voters. Mr. Peace graduated from UCLA with degrees in economics and philosophy. Mr. Chad Peace also holds a law degree from the University of San Diego. Mr. Chad Peace is also a licensed attorney in California. Some of his websites that you need to check out are ivcmediallc.com or independentvotercontact.com. Also check out creativeround.com, endpartisanship.org, and the Independent Voters Network website, ivn.us, just to name a couple. Mr. Chad Peace, it is so great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for a couple minutes of your time.
Very nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Big news, and I wanted to bring you on and ask you about this because I haven't heard too many folks talking about this. Can you tell us first, Chad, what is your role in this lawsuit that's been filed in New Jersey, and explain for our listeners, what is this lawsuit all about?
Right, well, I'm the legal strategist. I basically developed the strategy, put the idea of the lawsuit together, and wrote the complaint and organized the legal team. In a nutshell, what the lawsuit is about is really for the first time defending voter rights, not based on groups of people, but based on your individual right to vote. Most people probably aren't aware, but the last 50 years or so, the two main political parties have been doing everything they can in the courtroom to disenfranchise voters who don't vote lockstep with the party, right? So whether they're third-party voters or they're voters that now are in significant numbers are leaving the parties, are really shut out of the primary process. And as most of us know from watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, when it comes to election time, you see those big maps that are red and blue, and then there's a few purple states. Well, those few purple states are the only ones that are competitive in the general. So what does that mean? That means in every other district that's red or blue, the real election occurred during the primary, right?
Right.
So this is at a time when less than 9% of the people vote in primaries nationwide, when almost half of the voters consider themselves independent voters. We have a system that forces you to join a party in order to participate at the most meaningful stage of the election. So really all our lawsuit is asserting is, one, that the right to vote is fundamental. Two, that you can't condition my right to vote on giving up my right not to associate with one of the major parties. Right. And third, that if the major parties are going to conduct private primaries and they're going to exclude voters, they're going to go into the courtroom and use all their legal power to prevent anybody else but their party from voting in the primaries. Well, that's fine, on the basis of private association rights. But, if they're a private association, why are they taking taxpayer money to conduct these primaries? Right. So really, at its core, our lawsuit for the first time asserts, in the eyes of the individual, not in the eyes of any group or third party or candidate or anything, but the individual voter ought to have an equal and meaningful vote at every critical stage of the election process.
And that's so important, Chad, because anytime I speak with my friends or I bring up the topics of voting for third parties, alternative parties, which I do all of the time on this program. I'm a firm believer. I voted for Green Party in 2012. We've interviewed Buddy Romner on this program. We've interviewed Jill Stein on this program. Mm-hmm. And, I'm pretty excited that Bernie Sanders might run in 2016. But anytime I bring up this topic, Chad, the first thing I hear from anyone is, oh, well, if you don't vote for the Democrats or the Republicans, you're wasting your vote. How do you respond to that, Chad?
Well, I think I respond to that because it's partially true. I think voting with your conscience is hard to say that's a wasted vote, but it's really a symbolic vote, right? And I think that goes to the core of what our lawsuit is asserting. It's only a symbolic vote because the election rules have been rigged so that, like I said, whether you're supporting a Green Party or independent or whatever it is, the real quote-unquote election occurred in the primary. I mean, that's what the media tells you. That's what all the public dialogue tells you. And so when you have the most critical stage, which is the primary, that sets up the field of candidates that everyone gets to vote for. And so when you go through 6 months of an election cycle before that primary and the media tells all the voters, here's the two credible candidates, I mean, it shouldn't be a shock to people that it's impossible for third-party and independent candidates to have a chance. Right. But like I said, this lawsuit is all written through the eyes of the voter. It's not about parties. It's not about starting them, ending them. It's not about candidates. It's not about independent candidates or third-party or Republicans or Democrats. We believe that if all voters, regardless of their party, are given a chance to equal meaningful participation at the election process, we will get representatives that are more accountable to the general electorate. And as a consequence, instead of acting like leaders of a party, which I think more and more of us are agreeing that our representatives don't really act like representatives, they act more like party leaders, that we will get a more accountable representative. And I think as a consequence of changing that dialogue, we'll end up with more independent and third party and candidates that may still be Republican and Democrat, but they won't act like the Republican and Democrats that we're seeing today, who, salute to the party line, because if they dare to step out of it, they get trashed by their own party in their own primary.
Right. And Chad, if folks are just joining us, we're speaking with Chad Peace. He's the legal advisor and national legal strategist to IVP and in partisanship. The folks who are behind this lawsuit filed in New Jersey federal court challenging the constitutionality of the partisan primary elections. And Chad, do you is this only in New Jersey, or what about the other states? How does it?
Well, right now
out?
it is. We just filed our first lawsuit in New Jersey, so we will be awaiting a response from the state. But it is a state-by-state strategy. We've crafted this with the intention that we want to take this lawsuit to states all across the country. We have about 10 states on our quote-unquote target list of states that are probably the most egregious offenders of individual voting rights. And so really the idea is to take this complaint, recraft it for different states based on the individual laws and facts of that state, and really do, for the first time, go on the offense against the parties. The parties have gotten away with going into court and making all these arguments about their private rights of association stuff, and they've been able to get away with it because there's nobody on the other side to fight them, right? There's no apparatus or funding big enough to fight them. So we've managed to get as far as we have on really real little funding. I mean, we've had wonderful interns that have worked with me to do all the research, and we've done this on a very, very short budget. And we'll continue to be able to do things at a much more cost-effective level than the parties. But, we haven't expanded because we aren't going to expand until we know we have the resources and the firepower to handle, 10 states, for example. That takes a lot of legal resources and time and devotion and all that. We're prepared to do it. Today isn't the right time, but that is definitely in our near-term plans. And so, we're very excited about this. I think, the real next steps is let's see how this goes in New Jersey. It's not like we need to win this case tomorrow, but we want to go into court and make sure we give it our full attention, that we really take our time and focus on making the right arguments, because I think we are on the right side of this issue. There's no doubt about it. But remember, we're going into a court where all the judges were appointed by party leaders, representatives that got elected through the partisan system.
You bet.
So, we got to be very careful about it, very strategic about it, but also, we want to reach out to, third-party, independent voters and media and the people who are really following the political process on a day-to-day basis, like yourself. We intentionally aren't going out there trying to get CNN to report on it, or Fox, or the big mainstream media, because it's our belief that they are really stuck in the same two-party frame of mind that everyone else is.
Amen.
We would rather. We're going into court. This is a legal issue. I don't need CNN or Fox, and none of us need them to verify that we're on the right side of this issue. We want to take this to the people like yourself, who, whether you're far left, far right, up, down, wherever, follow the process, really understand at its core, we can't solve any of our issues until we have a system where representatives are accountable to us and not to a very small portion of the electorate that they are now.
Chad, how can people get involved and help you out? If because they're watching right now, how can people get involved and help?
Well, there's several. Right now, we have a development team that's building tools, and we're going to start launching here local organizations to do, on-the-ground outreach and stuff, on-the-ground educational efforts. But right now, the best way to do it is just share it with a couple friends. Go to your family, show them the video that Ben Swan produced. Just inform them of these issues. There's a lot of misinformation about nonpartisan primaries and different stuff, and it's come directly from polling and focus groups done by the Republican and Democratic parties. They will do everything they can to stop any kind of nonpartisan system. But this coalition is really a group of election reform advocates that are advocating for all kinds of reforms, whether it's instant runoff or approval or top two. These are all systems that we need to talk about and discuss. Okay, what's the best one? Should we try this one in Kentucky and this one in California and this one in Illinois? But right now, we can't even get to that part of the debate until we really hit it at its core, and that's what we're doing in New Jersey, is hitting the current systems right at the core, saying, okay, whatever system we're going to replace it with, the ones we have now are unconstitutional. So, driving that dialogue goes back to your question. How do we start? It's simple. Sign up for the petition. If you can, you're able and willing to donate a few bucks, $5, any amount helps. Donate. And then also the easiest thing to do, and it doesn't cost any money, is shoot an email to a couple of your friends, or, bring up the video at your dinner table and have your family watch.
Perfect. And again, if folks are just joining us, we're speaking with Chad Peace. He is the legal advisor and the national legal strategist for the In-Partisanship folks and the coalition that's behind the lawsuit filed in New Jersey federal court challenging the constitutionality of the partisanship primary elections. Chad, real quick, in our last minute or so, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate your time with us. What is just your most important point that you want people to really take home?
I think the important point is to be optimistic. I think a lot of times, especially the mainstream, if somebody challenges it, they paint everybody challenging the system as angry, irrational, crazy people, right? I think the most important thing is to look at all the people that are doing different things, whether it's independent media or it's ballot access stuff or it's new technology to help voters be informed. There are so many good things going on right now. They're driven by rational, practical people who really want to make a difference. That don't get upset when people misconstrue what you say or try to paint you to be something else. It's just look around, find people that you may not agree with on every single issue, but really at the end of the day you agree that, we ought to start talking to each other and not yelling at each other.
Exactly.
And then think about how many other people out there are like that. And that should give all of us a big reason to be optimistic, because I think momentum's in our favor, the facts are in our favor, and sooner or later the system will be responsive to all of us that are really fighting for a better system.
There we go. I love it. The website's ivcmediallc.com, independentvotercontact.com, creativeround.com, inpartisanship.org, and ivn.us, just to name a couple. Chad Peace, thanks so much again for your time today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And keep up the good fight, man. We really appreciate it. We really need you out there. Thank you. And that was really cool. Hey, where's that in studio audience that's not really there? There they are. Hey, really cool. And I thought that was interesting. This lawsuit filed in New Jersey, the inpartisanship.org coalition filed suit last week in district court in New Jersey, demanding that every voter should have an equal and meaningful vote at every stage in the voting process that is state-funded. I mean, it only makes sense, regardless of your party affiliation or non-affiliation. And I know as an independent, as a alternative, it's so hard to continually ram up against this, never-ending brick wall of status quo. I mean, you look at the numbers. 47% of New Jersey voters choose not to register with a political party. 42% of American voters are now self-identifying as independents or unaffiliated voters. Well, if you vote for a third party, you're going to waste your vote. Yeah, maybe 50 years ago, when the Democratic Party was still a viable, alternative solution, right? And the Republican and Democratic parties have prevented attempts to allow nonpartisan voter participation in many states. Coincidence? What about that First Amendment right of association, right? And but going back to what Chad's talking about, it comes back into the primary elections. Those primaries that are conducted at significant public expense. Fewer than 8% of all registered voters participated in New Jersey's primary election, just to like throw numbers out. And it costed $12 million, by the way, for the taxpayers there. This amounts to about $92 per vote cast. And 2.6 million New Jersey voters are not allowed to vote in the primary election unless they either join the Republican or Democratic Party. And, you know, there's something up with that. There's got to be something wrong with that. And I believe that while, you know, the two major parties, continue to maintain their status quo, their job security, of course, in the election process. I mean, the status quo is doing just fine, thank you very much, and for the status quo, right? And a party's strength should not be derived from institutionalized rules, laws, court proceedings. Instead, its strength needs to be measured by the ability to represent we the people. The whole fundamental purpose of having elected representatives is to represent the people who elected you. Is that not the purpose? Right. So what? And are they doing that? No. All that matters is the money. 95% of the time, the candidate with the most money wins. So you tell me, what do they care about? Do they care about what you think? I don't think so. But what do you do, right? So you organize. You do what Chad Peace is doing. You file lawsuits in New Jersey, right? That story, I know, didn't really make the news, and you haven't heard about it. And so I wanted to talk about it. And it was really cool. I reached out to Chad, and he was able to come on and speak with us for a couple of minutes. And he's a licensed attorney, and I didn't have to pay him for that one. So thanks, Chad. Again, he's the president and founder of IVC Media, LLC, dedicated to helping nonprofits and candidates and other political causes, giving folks the tools you need to be competitive and to make a difference and show up. And one of the things we actually didn't get to get into too much, I didn't want to take up too much of Chad's time, is Open Debates 2016. This is another very important part of this whole, super complex puzzle that we're trying to put together, lots of different pieces to the puzzle of solutions, right? One of those pieces is Open Debates 2016. Chad Peace's organizations, the Independent Voter Network, and InPartisanship.org, and the folks over there are all part of the Coalition for Open Debates 2016. I encourage you to get over to OpenDebates2016.com and sign up. It's all free, and there is a link to it on our website at filterfreeradio.com. And we talked a little bit about that before. We'll talk a little bit about that for the next 2 years coming up, about how do we get the alternative party candidates more a part of the conversation, more involved. I mean, it's only fair that whoever's running for president gets to participate in that process, right? I mean, that just seems fair. And so, but hey, life isn't fair, right? So what do, right? You organize and you get active. You question authority. You speak up. You stand for your moral values and you make a difference. Maybe you only make a difference in your own life, but hey, that's still a lifetime's worth of difference. So we'll continue this conversation. So much more to get into when we come back on filterfreeradio.com, radioornot.com, and we're live on Liberal Justice Radio as well. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
This is Liberal Justice Radio.
It's not real. It's just a computer-generated fantasy.
Liberal Justice Radio on TuneIn and A Online Radio.
Filter Free Radio.
Filter Free Radio. Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Jacob Dean. With Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
The news of raising the minimum wage sounded great. $11.50 an hour in Washington, D.C. and in Maryland, in the counties in Maryland, where I used to live in Montgomery County. Sounds great, but I thought I heard something in there that wasn't too hot. What was that one little bit there?
That's scheduled to be in place by 2016.
Oh, that part. Right. Yeah, well, sure, we'll throw you a bone. A couple years from now. So what is your New Year's revolution? Do you make minimum wage and you can't survive?
Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
The fact of the matter is, it's not nearly enough, doesn't go far enough. Raising the minimum wage will help people, and as part of building resistance movements, getting those disenfranchised college students who are unemployed and underemployed, along with the service sector workers who are all living in poverty. If you're able to get those two facets of our society together and organize them, well, then we should have a revolt. We should have enough to shut down parts of our system in order to demand a higher living standard, better quality of life, just for starters. And nothing will change unless you make it. So hope should be a goal, not just a wish. And then you do something about it.
FilterFreeRadio.com.
The counselor advised an informal setting, adding that it is, quote, an effective way to build a better relationship. That sounds like advice that a love counselor might offer to couples, but not so. This relationship is about money. The counselor is a lobbyist for the healthcare industry, and he was explaining the art of wooing Congress critters by paying several $1,000s to spend a weekend with them at some posh resort in Vail, Key West, or other luxury getaway. By holding what are called destination fundraisers outside of Washington, lawmakers and lobbyists can spend quality time together as they ski, snorkel, and schmooze. It's a way to get some large chunks of a lawmaker's time, oozed the lobbyist, who had recently enjoyed 3 days at the Four Seasons Resort in Vail with 5 Republican House members, 2 of whom are on the committee that writes our health laws. But wait, wasn't there a big stink over golf junkets a few years ago, forcing Congress to prohibit lobbyists from paying for these back-alley affairs? Yes, but Washington believes that where there's a will, there's a workaround. Here's how this one works. The lawmakers' political committees pay for their travel, food, booze, and lodging, so these expenses technically are not gifts from lobbyists. In turn, the favor seekers come at their own expense, plus making legal donations to the members' re-election campaigns. The donations end up being 3 or 4 times the cost of the event, so the lawmakers pocket a nice wad of cash, while the lobbyists enjoy a weekend of making legislative whoopee. Since the donations and the event are considered, quote, separate transactions, it's all legal. See? This is Jim Hightower saying, neither do I. In fact, what I see is just another corrupt way for corporations to buy Congress. Who do they think they're fooling?
To get more of Jim Hightower's populist take on what Wall Street and Washington are up to, visit www.hightowerlowdown.org.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick from Turn Up the Night. Here are some of the hijinks you can expect from my show. We just got done listening to several clips about the Romney fundraisers over the weekend, and I invented the murder finger. It's an offspring of the murder fist. It just happens to be the murder fist with the middle finger extended.
Well, I'm ahead of you because I've had a hate finger for many years.
Hate finger.
Hate finger. The man with the malcontent touch.
Yeah. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, streaming live every Tuesday and Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern at Radio or Not, Talk Radio 1, Progressive Blend Radio, and KennyPick.com.
Hey friends, Jacob Dean here with exciting news. You can now hear my show, Filter Free Radio, on the free Stitcher mobile app. Just download the free Stitcher app from Stitcher.com or in the App Store and search for Filter Free Radio. That's all there is to it. No syncing, no taking up memory on your device. Just Filter Free Radio on demand for you on the go. Plus, you can rate and review Filter Free Radio on Stitcher. The more you rate, review, and share us, the higher we will rank on Stitcher, and that means the more people will discover Filter Free Radio. It's never been easier to enjoy Filter Free Radio and help us spread the word. So download the free Stitcher app, search for Filter Free Radio, and start benefiting from unfiltered radical truth-telling anytime, anywhere. Thanks, and keep up the good fight.
Just a push of a button, just a touch of a screen. Welcome to the future. Come try our voting machine.
Electronic voting. One of those electronic voting dealies.
One vote for McCain.
No, I want to vote for Obama.
2 votes for McCain.
Come on, it's time for a change.
3 votes for McCain.
No, no, no!
6 votes for President McCain.
This machine is rigged!
No messy ballots, so the whole thing seems clean.
Yeah, the election process does seem like it's rigged a little bit, doesn't it? What are we going to do about that? Some folks are doing something about it. If you missed our conversation in the first segment, you'll have to go back and podcast that one with special guest Chad Peace. Very important conversation, I think, to have. Lots of important conversations we're going to be having on this episode of Filter Free Radio. Yes, we're going to be getting to the big no coal rally that happened on Saturday here in Portland. You can tell always I have my coal signs in the background. We'll talk about it. It's a very cool thing that happened, and lots of folks came out despite the rain. Lots of folks showed up, and they actually spelled out. They made the shape of the Oregon, the outline of the state of Oregon, no coal exports. That's in Portland's living room there in Pioneer Courthouse Square. I'm showing you a picture of it. And I've got a really cool speech that was given by an 8th grader, a middle school student, at this no coal rally. I want to share that with you coming up in the second hour. No, your resident activist did not show up and participate in this rally. I am disappointed in myself. I did not make it down to the demonstration. I literally found out, thanks to Twitter, that it was going on maybe 45 minutes before it happened. And I tweeted, hey, it's the cool protest going on. We need to talk about that. And I tweeted it out, and I throw it on Facebook, and I wasn't able to make it down there, but I did find a really cool speech given by an 8th grader that I've got to share with you. And I'll play that in the second hour. And then we got to do a filter-free radio flashback about Ambre Energy and Filter Free Radio episode number 87. I've got to do a quick flashback for the coal folks here in Portland. But there is a couple of things I want to mention really quick. One of which is you may know that I recently filled in. Of course, Scott and I did, but as you can tell, Scott is off tonight. Scott's not here if you're just joining us, so it might be a good night for you to try to call into the program. But, and the number is scrolling across the top of the screen, 503-746-TALK. And we did some fill-in for Nicole Sandler a couple weeks ago, and then we filled in for Shano and Danielle on Talking Left at talkingleft.com, which was carried on We Act Radio, 1480 AM in Washington, D.C. Super awesome, cool community radio station there. And Shano and Danielle last week got to fill in for the Tom Hartman program, which was super cool. And I never got to do that. That, quite frankly, that's more than I think I'd want to do. To be honest with you, I have plenty of fun doing Nicole's shows. So when we get to do it once in a while, but Shano and Danielle got to fill in for the Tom Hartman program on the big nationwide, biggest syndicated progressive program in the country, on hundreds of radio stations, on TV, on Free Speech TV, the Tom Hartman program, which I used to produce for. And so I had to call in and go on the air and give him a quick shout out. And I want to play this for you. This is kind of fun. Here's Danielle taking my call on the Tom Hartman program. How cool is this?
Welcome back to the Tom Hartman program. Danielle and Shano here filling in for Tom today. Tom will be back next week, and lots of great, amazing people. coming in to fill in. As promised, I wanted to get to your calls and thank you to everybody who's been waiting, some people a really long time, and we really, really appreciate it. Jacob Dean in Portland, Oregon. Hello, my friend.
Hey, guys. So good to hear you.
It is very good to hear you, too. Jacob Dean, the host of Filter Free Radio, and also former Tom Hartman producer. Thanks for calling in, Jacob.
Guys, I just had to call in real quick and say you guys are doing a fantastic job. I love you guys, miss you guys. Shout out to you guys and Tom and Louise and Sean and everybody and Jim and Sue. All you guys, love you guys, miss you guys. And talking about the minimum wage here in Oregon, you know, we got the second highest at like $9.10 an hour. And I'm really excited about the movement going on up in the Pacific Northwest. You know, gravitating around $15 an hour. It's a great way to get people out there to get active, to participate, and to make a difference. And that's what it's all about. And that's what you guys are doing on the air. That's what folks are doing up there and here and all around. And it's a beautiful thing. And I won't take up any more time. I just had to give you guys a shout out and say I miss you guys, love you guys. I know you guys probably can't talk about it too much, but I can. And I say, Danielle and Shano host a fantastic online program. It's called Talking Left, and you should check it out.
Oh, well, thank you, Jacob. You've succeeded in making me blush on TV today. Jacob Dean, we love you, and everybody should tune into Filter Free Radio as well. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. And when I got the word that they were doing it, I was like, oh my goodness, I got to call in and say hey and plug Filter Free Radio on the national show. So it's good that Filter Free Radio was mentioned twice. Anyone keeping count? I was. Good for them. It's really cool that Tom and Louise let them fill in. So I think that was really cool of them to do. In the realm of giving shout outs real quick, I do want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat room there over at radioornot.com. Buckeye Ken, Herbal Smurf, Panora, Truman Town, and a couple of folks in the other chat room, JD Fishin, Taffy Candy. Hey guys, thanks for listening. And I always appreciate the participation. JD Fishin in the chat room talking about the conversation from the first segment. How can we vote for people running that are restricted from the debates? Exactly. How could people realize that maybe, you know, the Green Party candidate or the Progressive Party candidate or the Libertarian Party candidate or... I mean, how could most people know that might even be the right candidate for them if they're not even in the debates? That's what OpenDebates2016.com is about. That's why I'm super happy to be a small part of that, to be a part of the folks who organized. If you remember in 2012, they organized the third-party debate. It was moderated by Tom Hartman. It was moderated by Larry King. And something like 20 million people, 20 million viewers watched it on Free Speech TV, on OR TV, on Link TV, on Democracy Now! 20 million people saw the alternative third-party debates, and Open Debates 2016 is really trying to organize more alternative third-party debates, get it in front of more eyeballs, more viewers participating, and folks should really get over to OpenDebates2016.com and check it out. There's a link to it on our website. And also back to, the InPartisanship Coalition as well, inpartisanship.org. And what we were talking about in the first segment, I love this. I just wanted to mention this. They write on their website, inpartisanship.org, members believe in 3 core principles. Ask yourself, do you believe in these core principles? Number 1, the right to a meaningful vote is fundamental. Do you believe that a meaningful vote and your right to such a meaningful vote is fundamental? Do you believe that? I do. Do you believe that the right to a meaningful vote cannot be abridged by a requirement to join any organization? Should you be allowed to vote for whoever you want to vote for? Yeah, that's the purpose of being allowed to be able to vote, right? Like, what's the purpose of being able to vote if you don't get to vote for who you want to vote for? And number 3, public funds cannot be used to subsidize the private activities of political parties. How much fraud, waste, and abuse is going on? Too much. Well, where's all the money going? It's pretty obvious. And it's taxpayer money. You and I money. You pay taxes, right? You should care. So, and I know you do. And I know you care. I know you care. So, let's go ahead. I want to go ahead and talk about this coal thing actually right now. I was going to do it in the second hour of the program, but I'm saving this this article and actually this interview that I've got. We're going to do that in the second hour of the program as well. It's going to be a jam-packed second hour of the program, isn't it? More voters turn to independent media for content they can trust by Logan Brown over at the Independent Voter Network, IVN.us. The link to that article is on our website right now at the homepage, on the top of the homepage, filterfreeradio.com. I did an interview with Logan. Logan wrote a brilliant piece. We're going to go through that article, talk about independent media, talk about voting third parties, alternative parties, and play you that interview. We're going to do that in the second hour of the program. So for the next 15 minutes, I want to talk about the coal protest happening in Portland, Oregon. This is on Saturday, 2 days ago. Lots of folks showed up, Pioneer Courthouse Square. It was organized on Facebook and social media, Twitter, by the folks at Power Past Coal. And their website is powerpastcoal.org, by the way. And you see there, this is a picture of all of the activists who showed up and organized themselves in the Oregon State outline, the outline of the Oregon State there. And you see the folks holding up the signs. These are the same exact signs that you see in the background of my studio. Hey, imagine that. Same signs. This Jacob Dean guy has been to some of these coal protestings before, hasn't he? Why, yes, he has. And we've talked about it on Filter Free Radio a lot, haven't we? Yes, we have. Matter of fact, we've done many episodes dedicated to this. It's been a big struggle up here in the Pacific Northwest. For those of us, my friends outside of the Pacific Northwest, it's pretty pristine country up here. The air doesn't really have a taste. The water's pretty clean. Nice amount of trees still left. Things are okay. And we're pretty concerned that this foreign Australian company wants to shove coal down our throats. And we've been fighting it for like 2 or 3 years now. And what they did was they came up with this really clever strategy. Rather than just like come up with one single proposal and kind of try to push through one single proposal, they split up. They had basically 6 plans, 6 different coal plans to bring coal through the Pacific Northwest. And rather than put all of their coal eggs into one basket, they split it up and spread it across 6 different plans. And so if you're wondering why are these people keep talking about the coal thing up in Oregon, it's because they've tried to sneak it through 6 different times, 6 different ways, and they're still doing it. And they are Ambre Energy, by the way. A-M-B-R-E. Like pronounced like the girl's name Amber, but it's spelled A-M-B-R-E. It's kind of like an Australian thing because they're from Australia. Real quick, over the weekend in Pioneer Courthouse Square, on Saturday, all sorts of various environmental nonprofits, people of all ages, especially the younger generations, showed up. It was so cool to see. It was covered by 2 or 3 local TV affiliates. Mention in passing, 30 seconds. There was a protest, another coal protest at Pioneer Courthouse Square today. No information about why, no information about the company that's trying to force coal through, no really information at all, just that there was a protest and it was raining. And of course, they put an article in the Oregonian, thanks to Emily Jan for writing an article, and she even mentioned it's called the Morrow Pacific Project, but not really much in-depth information. Wonder why. And the rally was really family and youth-centered, included in testimonials from young activists like 9-year-old MC Donquist, I think is how you pronounce his name. 9-year-old MC who is homeschooled, and he says that he's been interested in climate change since he was 4 years old, thanks to shows on OPB, which is Oregon Public Broadcasting, our PBS station, and NPR, National Public Radio. He says when he was 7, he took a more active role and started speaking at rallies like this to encourage other youth to become more informed about the environment. He says, quote, "It's their generation that's going to be affected. I think I can make a difference by getting kids informed." Amen. Good on you, buddy. That's what it's all about. And here is a short 2-minute speech given by another youth. This is 8th grader Simone, a middle schooler, speaking at the No Coal rally protest over the weekend here in Portland. Keep in mind, she is in the 8th grade. 8th grade in middle school. This is so cool. Good on you, Simone. Check this out.
Good afternoon. My name is Simone, and I am an 8th grader at Sunnyside Environmental School. I am here because I am concerned about the coal trains that could be traveling through Portland. According to Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, coal trains lose 500 pounds of coal dust for every 500 miles they travel. This coal dust doesn't just go away. It settles on the ground, on our houses, in our lungs. Some argue that by the time the trains get out of the basin, there wouldn't even be any coal dust left, because it all got left behind. But does that really matter? Just because it isn't affecting us directly here in Portland, it is still affecting the people that live in the basin. And just because we here are off the hook, and we really aren't, doesn't mean we can relax. As if coal dust isn't enough, the coal itself gets shipped to Asia and burned, releasing CO2 into the air that hangs in the atmosphere and contributes to climate change. This has been happening a lot in the last few decades, and though we have been working slowly towards solving this, shipping coal through the Powder River Basin is the opposite of progress. We are angry about this for a reason. We are angry about this because it's not healthy, for us or for our environment. Our country should be moving forwards, not backwards. Instead of paying to have accelerated coal mining, why don't we put our money into solar power, or wind power, or developing a better means of harnessing energy from the ocean? Or even other things, improving everyday objects to not need so much energy. There is so much we could be doing right now that we are not. The United States is in the middle of a crisis, but we also have the best technology we have ever had, and instead of putting our time into something we have been doing for 200 years, why don't we work on something new? Our world is precious, and there is no reason for us to be poisoning it the way that we are. Fight back against big coal, because our earth and our city is worth it. We are worth it.
See, I even have one of these coal signs in the background of the studio that you don't see that's stuck behind me. So I'm going to put this one right here for just a second. So you see that. There. We don't like the coal. and good on Simone for speaking out. The 8th grader, the middle school student who is aware of the climate change, and she is aware that, hey, I'm going to have to deal with this for the next 40, 50, 60, 70 years. That is, as long as we don't let the climate get to the point where it's so bad that we don't get to live for 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years. I'm just saying, we can't eat money. We can't drink oil. I like air without taste. Is that being too selfish? Is it being too selfish to like air without taste? And if you've never listened to this program before, Filter Free Radio is the first time you're checking us out. We have done all sorts of stuff on the coal. You have to go back and watch my coverage of the public hearing when they marched in. They brought in like 2 or 3 PR consultants that were representing Ambre Energy, the people that want the coal project. And I covered that. We covered that on this program. We've done multiple episodes on this conversation. The most important one you can go back to is watch episode 87. You go to filterfreeradio.com. Up in the top left corner under the main menu, click on FFR Full Episode Archive. Under the Full Episode Archive is every episode that we've ever done. All 107 of them, and today's episode 108 is going to be up there about an hour after we get off the air. Every episode's there. Full Episode Archive. Scroll down to episode number 87 and watch episode number 87. I did episode number 87 from the perspective of, I'm just going to put aside the I'm pro-coal or I'm anti-coal. That doesn't matter. Even if we want to export coal through Oregon, the point is we cannot do business with Ambre Energy. Ambre Energy is not the company that we want to be doing business with, even if we want to export coal through Oregon. That's a big if, and I know we don't want to, but even if you want jobs for coal exporting, Ambre Energy is not the company to do it with. You need to watch Filter Free Radio episode 87. We spend a whole hour, the first hour of episode 87, telling you everything that you've never heard about Ambre Energy. How come you've never heard of Ambre Energy before? How come they don't talk about Ambre Energy behind the Morrow Pacific Project? How come you never heard of Ambre Energy in this coal exporting debate? Probably because Ambre Energy is an Australian company. They're a foreign Australian company. They're only 9 years old. Only 9 years old. They've never made a profit. Ambre Energy has never made a profit. Not once. They're somewhere in debt of $125 million to somewhere between $125 to $300 million in debt. Ambre Energy is not a coal company. The only previous endeavor Ambre Energy participated in coal failed, and they accumulated over $10 million in losses. Ambre Energy is on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars for mining, reclamation, site cleanup, retiree medical and pension benefits, and other costs that have arisen from a recent lawsuit. A lawsuit brought against Ambre Energy by Ambre Energy's own coal company partners, not some radical environmentalist group. Ambre Energy's own coal company partners have sued Ambre Energy over violating terms of conditions of its agreements, over squeezing out partners of management decisions, acting outside of approved budgets, and raising the expectations in local communities regarding jobs and economic development where such expectations are not justified. That's exactly what's happening right now in my hometown of Portland, Oregon. That's exactly what's happening in the Pacific Northwest with the propaganda that they've been pushing over this Morrow Pacific coal BS for the last couple of years now. And Ambre Energy, the company that's behind this whole thing, has already been sued by its own coal company partners for doing exactly what they're doing right here, right now. Again, raising the expectations in the local community unrealistically regarding jobs and economic development where these expectations are not justified. They've already been sued over this. Ambre Energy is the company behind this Pacific Northwest coal exporting proposal, the Morrow Pacific Project. Ambre Energy are the ones trying to shove dirty coal down the throats of us Pacific Northwesterlandians. And you really need to go check out Filter Free Radio episode 87 and educate yourself about who is Ambre Energy. And watch the Portland State University panel discussion that I attended and recorded for that purpose. And go back and watch those episodes. And please, my friends, don't give up the fight. We have to keep up the fight here to make sure that they don't do it. So, tip of the hat to all of the youngsters showing up over the weekend in Portland's living room at Pioneer Courthouse Square. Tip of the hat to you guys for getting out there, getting active, and making your voices heard. Hell no, we're not going to do coal exports. More filter-free radio when we come back. Independent voters are looking for independent content they can trust. and you've found it. It's filterfreeradio.com. We'll be right back.
Filter Free Radio. Filter Free Radio. Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
Jacob Dean.
With Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
But I just don't subscribe to the common memes, and I don't subscribe to either political parties anymore because they don't represent us. They represent, well, their own interest, obviously, and furthering their own interests, and furthering the interest of wealthy financiers who obviously pay for them to get elected, and that's who they serve. So what do you do in this situation where obviously changing the players doesn't change the game? It's like you can vote, but don't spend more than 5 minutes on it. Then the time it takes to go to the polls and pull the lever and then move on, and then get back out in the streets and protest with your signs and raise awareness and educate people.
Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott.
And that comes from reading. I mean, really, you have to start reading alternative critical thinkers, the Noam Chomskys of the world, the late Howard Zinn, people who document these things. Activism is what brings about change, and change comes from physically being in the streets. The biggest lie is that I'm an internet activist. Well, there's no such thing. You're either an activist or you're not, but there is no internet activist. It's like, well, that means you don't get out of the house, which means you don't really accomplish anything. You know, you're not organizing, you're not getting people together in the streets, you're not actually pushing for a real change that you want to see. You're just more talking about it online, which is the same as a conference call.
FilterFreeRadio.com.
Begin transmission. This is Liberal Justice Radio.
Yeah, there's guns and glow lights and kids wear the vests.
Yeah, no,
split into teams.
Right. No, I know what it is.
Liberal Justice Radio on TuneIn and online radio.
Tune in to Liberal Justice Radio on the TuneIn app and tunein.com.
Hi, this is Kenny Pick, founder of Liberal Justice Radio, and I wanted to take a few minutes to let you know about our schedule here. First and foremost, on Mondays, you can check out Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott on Filter Free Radio, live from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Jacob and Scott give you unfiltered news, opinion, and analysis on stories that the mainstream media won't touch with a 10-foot pole. It's a fantastic show that you won't want to miss. Then on Tuesdays, there's my show, Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick. I have many co-hosts, Tom, Deba, Matt, Kim, and Pete on Tuesdays. That's 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. We have lots of laughs. We talk about politics. We talk about news. We talk about all kinds of stuff. You'll love it. We also have a Friday show, but we'll get to that momentarily. We're proud to announce that we have a brand new addition to our live family, and that's the Bradcast, of course, hosted by the world-renowned Brad Friedman of the Brad blog and the Green News Report. And we're very happy to have him on from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. Then Thursdays, well, everybody gets the night off for good behavior. Then Friday comes back around, and yeah, that's right, Turn Up the Night is back. It's me, Tom, Deba, and Matt back for more fun. And again, that's Fridays live from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Then Saturdays, from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern, we have my good friend Adam Hebert with Mic Check Radio. You can check out him and his hosts, Rob and Wes. They talk politics, they talk geek culture, they talk science, and again, lots of laughs from those guys too. And again, that's Saturdays from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. That's when the shows are live. We encourage you to listen 24 hours a day if you humanly can. We would love that. That's Filter Free Radio, live every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick, live from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, the Bradcast, live from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Thursdays, we're off. Fridays, we're back with more Turn Up the Night from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. And then on Saturdays, it's Mic Check Radio, live from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Nothing yet on Sunday, but you never know. We might throw a curveball. So please enjoy our live shows and the recent rebroadcasts that we run 24/7. And find out how to get in touch with us. Let us know how you're listening to Liberal Justice Radio and what you think of the programming and what you'd like to hear more of.
Liberal Justice Radio on the TuneIn app and tunein.com.
This is Jackson Brown, and you're listening to The Nicole Sandler Show.
This is Melissa Etheridge, and you're listening to my friend, Nicole Sandler.
Hey, this is Rob with Matchbox 20.
Hey, this is Chris Isaac.
Hi, this is Suzanne Vega.
Hey, this is Trey Anastasio, and you're listening to
my friend Nicole Sandler.
Bare Naked Ladies, you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
What's up? This is Howie Day, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
Hey, this is Henry.
And I'm JoJo. And I'm Ringo. And we're Los Lonely Boys, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Kelly from Stereophonics, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Evan Dando of the Lemonheads, and you're listening to Nicole
Sandler.
Hi, my name's Jonathan Brooke, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Pat Monahan from the band Train, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Ziggy Marley, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
Hey, this is Pete Yorn, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
The lovely Nicole Sandler.
Nicole Sandler. Nicole is awesome.
The Nicole Sandler Show at radioornot.com. Music to my ears.
Hey friends, Jacob Dean here with exciting news. You can now hear my show, Filter Free Radio, on the free Stitcher mobile app. Just download the free Stitcher app from Stitcher.com or in the App Store and search for Filter Free Radio. That's all there is to it. No syncing, no taking up memory on your device. Just Filter Free Radio on demand for you on the go. Plus, you can rate and review Filter Free Radio on Stitcher. The more you rate, review, and share us, the higher we will rank on Stitcher, and that means the more people will discover Filter Free Radio. It's never been easier to enjoy Filter Free Radio and help us spread the word. So download the free Stitcher app, search for Filter Free Radio, and start benefiting from unfiltered radical truth-telling anytime, anywhere. Thanks, and keep up the good fight.
Thanks for supporting Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean and Skeptical Scott and giving power back to the people.
Welcome back to the show, broadcasting live. It is March 10th. Did you turn your clocks forward? I hope so. Or else, well, if you're just joining us, you missed the first hour of the program. Hey, it's good to be live, March 10th, 2014, Monday episode, Filter Free Radio episode 108. Jacob Dean here live in Portland, Oregon, where folks are saying, hell no, Amber Energy, ain't going to happen with that coal thing. Our super duper awesome mass producer, co-host, all around brother from another mother, Mr. Skeptical Scott, has the week off, has the evening off for good behavior. Of course, he has to work the job that actually pays him money. And I don't pay him any money. We don't make no money here. And that's why everything is free. FilterFreeRadio.com. It's all free. At the top of our website, you will see a cool link to a very cool story. Anytime I make the news, I got to talk about it. I mean, we talk about the news that you don't really see or hear anywhere else. It makes it a real, true, independent alternative for you. You probably haven't heard anyone else talk about this article much. This new article by Logan Brown. It's over at the Independent Voter Network. The website is ivn.us. ivn.us is the website. The title of the article, More Voters Turn to Independent Media for Content They Can Trust. Sounds pretty straightforward. And it was. And it is. And you can find a link to it again at the top of our website, filterfreeradio.com. I want to read through this article. It's a short article. It's an easy read. And Logan Brown is the author. And, before Logan emailed me and asked to do an interview with me, and I'm going to share that interview with you coming up here in about 10 minutes. Before I did this interview with Logan, I'd never heard of the Independent Voters Network. I checked it out. It's really cool what they're doing, what they stand for. It is a completely independent network of all sorts of different independent authors writing on all sorts of different topics. And the thing is there's no partisan attacks. There's no partisanship. The reality is you write your article, it's fact-based, and people have the ability to rebut your articles with other fact-based information. And it's as simple as that. And it's a very professional, very respectful environment. It's very cool and very appropriate. And I'm happy to now be a small, very insignificant part of it. And a little bit from this article, More Voters Turn to Independent Media for Content They Can Trust by Logan Brown, ivn.us. He writes, starting out, the rise of the 24-hour news cycle brings a dangerous aspect to news media that is now often overlooked. Sensationalized headlines attacking political opponents has become commonplace. The goal for news media has shifted from informing to entertaining. Clearly, public discontent with these news organizations has been reflected in a 2013 Gallup poll, which found that only 23% of U.S. citizens trust mainstream media. Only 23% of Americans trust mainstream media. That's why you're here at filterfreeradio.com. This provides an opportunity for those passionate and determined enough to engage in real investigative journalism to do so through independent media. Here we are. Now, Logan profiles a couple of the other interviews that he did for this article. One with Chris Ann Hall, host for Liberty First Radio and attorney, and she's also part of the Open Debates 2016 initiators. Logan talks a little bit about The Intercept, which is, he writes, one major step for independent media is Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill's The Intercept, which now allows concerned citizens the chance to engage in rigorous investigative journalism while having a platform to display that information without the filter of a corporate news network. We've talked a lot about The Intercept and theintercept.org, and the reality is, and this is the whole, this is how this show was born. And I talked to Logan. I'm going to play the interview in just a couple minutes. I talked to Logan about this. This is how this show was born. People like Glenn Greenwald, who have stories to tell, have to, in order to tell the truth anymore, you got to go independent. In order to step around the filters, step around the content filters that traditional media publications present, you have to establish independent outlets. You see Glenn Greenwald leave The Guardian, and now Matt Taibbi has left Rolling Stone magazine to join essentially Jeremy Scahill and the folks at The Intercept. And this program was born out of my previous job. I produced for the #1 nationally syndicated progressive talk radio show in the whole nation. And I got to a point where I always felt like, you know, every time I offered up news stories and suggestions of things to do, it kind of, you know, often got overlooked or often got filtered out of the conversation. I said, well, why don't we do our own show and talk about them? And then that way I can talk about whatever I want to talk about without fear of being filtered or fear of losing status that I don't have, right? When you got nothing to lose. And that's why the people who have something to lose, they toe the line because they got something to lose, right? But back to this article, more voters are turning to independent media for content they can trust, right? Do you trust your evening news? I don't think so. Or do you trust your television anymore? Not much. Back to Logan's article here. In a recently published article, James Clapper talked about how involved the government can be in the publication process, leading to many stories becoming censored or simply not even released. This article sheds light on the growing desire to move away from traditional media sources so people have the ability to present an unscripted source of information to the public. And then Logan Brown also did an interview with Britt Heisen, the editor-in-chief for Millennial Magazine, something that I haven't heard of before this article came out, something I've looked into, something I can't wait to check out more and to talk about more, to, you know, cross-promote, interact more, build the network on which, you know, build the logistics of the alternatives so the alternatives can exist, right? This is what we got to do, so we got to get involved. Millennial Magazine works to disrupt media as the premier online destination for solution-oriented news. And Britt Heisen, her desire to work within her own framework inspired her to start up Millennial Magazine. This unique news source added an element not often seen in the media, solution-oriented news. Rather than simply reporting on facts, giving commentary on the news, she's able to tailor her message to adding solutions to every issue she discussed. Super cool. That's what, we try to do here. We always try to focus on the solutions. Be more a part of the solutions than we are a part of the problems. And now, Logan Brown gets to the best part of the article, in my opinion. Oh, that must be the part where he talks about you, Jacob. Oh, yeah, that part. Again, the link to the article is on the top of our website at filterfreeradio.com. And again, thanks to Logan Brown for writing this. This from Logan Brown's article, I'm reading directly, quoting, "Another initiative that branched off from independent media is Open Debates 2016. Jacob Dean, coalition member as well as host and producer for the radio broadcast Filter Free Radio, spoke to how independent media has allowed millions of people to see the third-party debates in 2012. The Coalition for Open Debates wants to give voters a chance to watch unscripted debates among presidential candidates with unfiltered questions. Unlike the presidential debates in 2012, the candidates will not receive a list of the questions beforehand. Open Debates 2016 is a tangible movement focused on providing citizens with a means to become educated voters, while also highlighting one of the many great things that can arise from independent media. But what does the future hold for independent media? These organizations face challenging roadblocks regarding funding, attracting viewers, and providing unique content so those viewers return. Amen." Jacob Dean pointed out that independent media largely consists of, quote, "trying to tell people what they don't want to hear," end quote, while offering, critiquing our most powerful public figures and corporations, something potential big donors rarely endorse. I love that is the quote of me in this article. Jacob Dean points out that independent media largely consists of trying to tell people what they don't want to hear. Amen. Isn't that right? And this is why we only have 10 people amongst both chat rooms right now hanging out. It's hard to tell people what they don't want to hear. And Logan Brown sums up the rest of the article by saying the unique aspect of most independent news is the fact that in spite of the funding challenges, people are running, funding, and putting in the hard work to produce stories that give readers the information they need to make well-informed decisions. If there was a reason why you come to Filter Free Radio, that is it. Independent media represents the voice of the public in the best way possible. It features a passionate and diverse range of people providing information to the public, not because I'm making money doing this, because I'm not making money doing this. The reason why we're doing this is because there is a moral obligation. The morality sets in because they feel a moral reason to do so. Not necessarily a financial reason to do so. Because it's really hard to get Walmart to pay me to tell them that they're doing wrong. Right? I'm going to talk with Logan. I'll play the Logan Brown interview in just a minute. It's a pretty good one, I think. Independent media, like this program here, allows people to find their own political niche as well. Whether it's the work of Jeremy Scahill, Glenn Greenwald, and the Edward Snowden leaks, whether it's the work of Jacob Dean's Filter Free Radio, or Miss Henson's Millennial Magazine, or the Coalition for Open Debates 2016, independent actors are now providing viable alternatives to the mainstream 24-hour news stations. Heck yeah, we are. Fantastic article, Mr. Logan Brown. The link to that article is on our website at filterfreeradio.com. And without further ado, I want to play this interview, the entire interview, unfiltered, unedited, that Logan Brown did with me. And normally you hear me interviewing people on this program. You don't ever hear people interviewing me on this program. So this is a treat. This is really cool. This is my interview with Logan Brown interviewing me for this article that we just went through. You can find this MP3 also available on our website, filterfreeradio.com. And this is about as transparent and as an open book as I get. So here you go. I hope you enjoy this. And we'll be back to say goodbye at the end of this interview. This interview is going to be about half an hour long. So hang in there. And this is, again, my interview with Logan Brown for the article on the Independent Voter Network, IVN.us. More voters turn to independent media for content they can trust. Hello, Jacob here.
Hi, this is Logan.
Hi, Logan. Pleasure to speak with you.
Nice speaking with you, too. All right, just trying to get my setup here. Okay. So, how's the sound quality?
It sounds all right. I can hear some of the ambience out there on the street, but that's okay.
Yeah. Bus is parked right out in front of us right now.
Okay.
Hold on, it's driving away. Okay, so I'm doing my article on kind of the future independent media, how I got started, where it's going, kind of that kind of ideology.
Okay.
I kind of wanted to get started just kind of with you and how you got started. What kind of inspired you to move away from the traditional, mainstream media, and what kind of inspired you to start your radio show?
Yeah, the primary inspiration for my show comes from my previous job. I was the associate producer for about 3.5 years, from April of 2009 until June of 2012, for the number one progressive talk radio show in the country, and with a focus on news and politics. And I was hired on that job at the ripe old age of 19 years old. And at the time, of course, I wasn't into politics at all. I was into, sports and music and rock and roll and girls, right? So, and working there really kind of, got me aware, a little bit politically active. And I mean, it was my job to listen to the conversation 3 hours a day. And eventually, after about the first year or so, second year or so, I started going, getting a hang of going through the routine every day. And a lot of the things that I felt were important as we would do organized prep for the talk show and organize what we were going to talk about that day, I always felt so limited because I could always offer suggestions on news topics to talk about. And eventually I started to feel like a lot of important things were getting filtered out of the conversation. And I became motivated from a Twitter conversation with a friend of mine on Twitter, and started a online once a week for 2 hours talk show, and we created a website and started broadcasting once a week for 2 hours just to kind of fill in the gaps of what was being filtered out of the conversation. And hence the name I came up with, Filter Free Radio, trying to kind of break through always what was the conversation. And I always felt like what was more important was being filtered out. And then, now I'm at the point of the progression where I don't even listen to corporate media at all whatsoever anymore. I mean, now that I'm 25 now, and 5-6 years later, a few years later, the more you learn, the more you know, right? And
exactly.
So that's kind of the initial motivation. Was I always felt like things were filtered out of the conversation, and I said, you know what? If I want someone to hear about it, I got to take it into my own hands, and we started the show.
Okay. I wanted to touch on some of the most important aspects, in your opinion, for independent media. It's they all kind of flow together at some point, but I bring this up because of I don't know if you've heard of Jeremy Scahill's and Glenn Greenwald's new project, The Intercept.
Absolutely.
How it's probably, in my opinion, it's going to be like one of the bigger independent media sources, and a lot of it has to do with their ethos, who they are, their access to Edward Snowden's documents and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that I don't know, the almost celebrity status for people like Jeremy Scahill and Glenn Greenwald, do you think that's important and necessary in independent media? Do you think that's it could be a bad thing? Do you think it's a good thing, or just kind of touch on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with their new project, The Intercept, and I think it's, like you said, it's very crucially important what they're doing. To call Jeremy Scahill and Glenn Greenwald celebrities, I think in our bubbles, absolutely, totally. But to the rest of the 80 or 90% of folks out there who have no clue who these guys are, I think that speaks to the point that it doesn't matter the individual status of the people. What matters is their content and what they're talking about and what they're trying to get out there. Because journalism is printing. It's a George Orwell quote. To quote George Orwell, journalism is printing what someone else doesn't want printed. Everything else is public relations. And I am a journalism major. That's my college degree, is in radio broadcast journalism. And journalism is the only profession specifically mentioned in the U.S. Constitution because it is the most important profession there is. It is the only real independent check and balance on power, and it holds the power accountable. And like you said, real journalists like Jeremy Scahill, Glenn Greenwald, Greg Palast, Democracy Now! The list is really short, but there are real journalists out there in providing real journalism, and real journalism is not a party to the parties. It speaks truth to power. It empowers we the people. And in order to speak and do real journalism now, we see such a suppression of media and suppression of free speech, especially in the corporate media world. You have to go independent. Glenn Greenwald got tired of The Guardian saying, no, you can't publish this. And Matt Taibbi has left Rolling Stone to join Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill at The Intercept. And they're going to, Matt Taibbi is going to head a second publication, I think, there with them. And so you see these guys who are leaving the most filtered media outlets that there are because they're tired of being censored. They really have a moral obligation to the people to tell the truth and inform the people of what's going on. And that's kind of the purpose of, or what I try to think of the purpose of what I'm trying to do, help fill in the blanks, help explain why things are happening the way they are, try to organize some sustainable solutions to the systemic issues. That's what journalism's about. So I think it's great what Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill are up to. Dirty Wars, one of my favorite movies. And they're doing God's work. Truth be told, to be honest to God with you, I do not know how Jeremy Scahill is still alive right now. I think the only reason that Jeremy Scahill is alive is because he is in the public. People know who he is. We know his face, and they can't just off him. But that's my opinion.
Can't say I disagree. So let's see. I guess another big part of it is the audience. there's so many different sources out there now where you can get all this information, but a lot of it is attracting them to I guess, your news source, and then keeping them coming back and looking at your content again and taking you as like a viable means to information. So how have you been able to attract and kind of maintain like a following or a group of just people who will actively listen to you and come back? Because usually it's difficult without large corporate sponsors and getting your name out there and things like that. So that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very hard to try to build anything from the grassroots bottom up, especially when you don't have any funding. And I find the most difficult thing for us is we're trying to tell people what they don't want to hear. I mean, everyone wants to watch cute, fluffy cat videos and new puppies and let's talk about the new fast food breakfast, right? But because that makes you feel good and doesn't question your thinking or doesn't question your positions. And when you tell people things that they don't want to hear, it's really hard to get them to come back and be a regular listener. I mean, on a weekly basis, we probably have 5 to 10, maybe a dozen people listening live in our chat room on our website, which is all free. And I mean, anytime we get more than a dozen or 2 dozen people in the chat room, it's a big deal. I'll do chat room shout outs and we'll have a party. And our listenership is very low. I mean, I post every single thing that we do on YouTube, everything. I've got over 240 videos on there since we started in August 2011, and our total view count of everything combined is somewhere in the range of 22,000 views total. So, I mean, not many, and if I put up a video of a hot babe in a bikini or a puppy, I'll get 2 million hits instantly. So it's really hard to tell people, first of all, what they don't want to hear, but that's the purpose of independent media, is to counter the corporate media. And the corporate media is nothing but propaganda. The corporate media benefits from uninformed people making irrational decisions, and independent media is fighting for informed people making rational decisions. And you talk about, it's really hard to get your to get the ball rolling without the advertising backing, without the big pocketbook. And I always like to bring up the point that the best interests of corporations are not necessarily the best interest of mine, or the best interest of the government is not necessarily the best interest of mine. And what I mean by that is, if I was a corporation, I would not want to advertise on a show that is bad-mouthing me all day long. I mean, there's a reason why Walmart or BP has never approached me to run commercials on Filter Free Radio, because I'm trashing Walmart's globalism and BP's wrecking of the climate as much as I can. And I don't have an agenda. I mean, my agenda is trying to give our future a chance. That's it. And it's super hard for independent operations to really even exist, let alone to be sustainable, because of the lack of ad revenue and the lack of revenue streams coming in. But you see, what gives me hope is that the demand for real independent media is out there. The demand for real independent journalism is out there. More people are waking up and turning off the corporate media, and they're turning on the internet, and they're going to these independent sources and finding this content, and subscribing to podcasts, and donating to causes that they feel like they should be donating to. And it's those types of crowdsourcing, your Kickstarter and your Indiegogo, pooling, what little bit of monetary support you can from your subscribers is about the best you can do in the beginning. And then from there, you have to branch out and look for those alternative companies, alternative businesses, your local mom and pop shops that you don't even hear commercials on the radio for anymore. you actually have to go to them and say, hey, I'm doing, independent media. This is what I stand for, or maybe I'm even a customer of your business, and I would love to promote you on the show. How about you give me $10 or something? And, and then that's how it goes. And that's how it used to be back in the good old days of radio, from what I'm told, sort of. It used to be that way, more or less. And for me, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'm a native Portland Oregonian, born and raised. I lived here all my life except for the 2 years that I went back to Washington, D.C. And while we were still in Portland, we broadcasted from KPOJ, which is AM 620 KPOJ. It was a Clear Channel radio station. So for a year and a half, I worked in Clear Channel, at Clear Channel. I wasn't a Clear Channel employee. They wouldn't even give me a access key card to get into the building. I had to walk up and knock on the door every single morning to get in to do my job. Because I'm serious.
That's ridiculous.
Honest to God, true story. And the thing is, once you've been on the inside of any kind of system, whether it's the corporate radio system or if you've been on the inside of the pizza shop system, once you've been on the inside of something, you understand more how it operates. You get to see the larger picture, and you develop a much more better, concise understanding, and then that motivates people. Hopefully, I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. I guess another one that I wanted to talk about was the scope of the stories for independent media. If you think they should be more narrow on their focus, or if you think they can stretch out and cover a wide range of issues. Because, for example, the Jeremy Scahill and Glenn Greenwald, they're kind of really focusing on the Snowden leaks, and then everything else is just kind of a side project as of right now.
Sure.
It kind of seems like in places like mainstream media and everything, that there's just so much information that viewers don't even know where to start.
Right.
So with independent media, it has the ability to focus on certain things like Scahill is working in foreign policy with the Snowden leaks. There could be other things like IVN, like what I work for. We work for voter rights. We're based in California, so it's kind of based about California, but
okay.
We certainly apply it to other states. But do you think it should be more centrally focused on a smaller range of issues, or do you think that it's okay to branch out and cover a large deal?
I would say both are okay. I think it's a good thing to build consistency, like Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill are doing. Now, anytime I want to know about what war crimes the United States is participating in, or what the NSA is up to, I know exactly where to go, and that's the Intercept, right? And that's a good thing because that builds consistency, and it also makes those journalists real experts in what they're talking about, what they're doing. They're so enveloped in it, and I really like the idea that a journalist is really doing his homework and knows what he's talking about. I think that's an important thing. On the other hand, like you mentioned, there's so many issues out there. It's kind of overwhelming. Where do you begin, right? My motivation, what I try to remind myself is that's the beauty of the uniqueness and the individuality of people. We all are different, and no two people are exactly the same or think exactly the same. We all have our own passions, and different people are passionate about different things. And I just advocate for people to get active in whatever they are passionate about. And that way, not only does it cover the wide range of issues, because then you have tons of people getting active on tons of issues, but then people like to do it because they are getting active in something that they care about, that they're passionate about. The environmentalists want to go take on the Keystone XL pipeline, but the economists, don't give a hoot about that. They want to take on campaign finance reform. bring it on. It's all good with me as long as we're making progress. I think it's for the people who really dive down in and just stay on one thing and focus and dive down that rabbit hole. As long as it's a good rabbit hole and they're dealing in what is the concrete, not dealing in fantasy, but actually dealing in reality and exposing reality. By all means, become experts on whatever you're passionate about and tell us what's happening. And that's if I'm rambling, you can just cut me off, man. It's
no worries.
All right.
I like it. Get more info. Okay, so then another thing that I've been hearing from a lot of other people that I talk to is kind of like right now it's labeled as independent media, but do you think one day it'll just be the norm? It'll be the media? Do you see an end in the near future for kind of like the mainstream media, or do you see the independent media taking over what I guess they were the central source for most people for news, or do you think it'll kind of stay status quo? People who go search out on the internet be a minority of the population kind of thing, or do you see it developing into something much more grand?
Oh God, I can only hope, oh my goodness. Well, to take a sober reading of reality, my observations lead me towards a more pessimistic answer, and I'm not a pessimist. I'm definitely an optimist. For me, it's tough because I don't see independent media becoming the norm, so to speak, by itself, because all the obstacles we're talking about that it's up against, and the dominance and the corporate media and the finances. But on the other hand, what the so-called independent media outlets talk about is in fact mainstream beliefs, mainstream ideas, mainstream values. If you actually poll people on issues and ask them, more times than not, they actually side with independent views. No one person is, all one side or the other. You're somewhere, you float around somewhere in the middle. You got to break down the labels. But to get back to your point, to get back to your question, I want nothing more than the independent media to take over and to become the mainstream. The tragedy is a majority of the people don't realize that the mainstream is in alternative independent outlets, and that's because propaganda works, and propaganda works. That's why corporate media uses it, and it's going to be tough because you're never going to get it goes back to part of the funding, part of the financial aspect of it. You're not going to get Walmart to kick you any dough unless you want to praise them on your show. And this is why you see such filth come out of the Rush Limbaughs of the world, because they're subject to their financiers. And hey, if I was paid $400 million to say something, I'd think about it. I'm just saying. But then again, you can't sleep at night. You gotta be able to sleep at night and stand by your morals and stand by your values. And the more people that wake up, and we are witnessing the process of the awakening of the people right now. And you see evidence of it everywhere. And, here we are on independent operations, getting the truth out. And the demand is there. The people are waking up. So, I'm remaining optimistic that it can happen. And I think if it's going to happen, it's up to we, the people, to make it happen.
Gotcha. So, I also wanted to talk about your role with the Open Debate Coalition.
Yeah.
It sounds like a fantastic idea. I guess I'd like to hear how you got started, what your role in it is.
Yeah.
Kind of the plans going forward with it, how you plan to hold debates or anything like that.
Absolutely, yeah. This all started personally for me back in election year of 2012. At the time in 2012, leading up to the election, we did a lot of programs focusing on alternative party candidates, the independent candidate, the Green Party candidate, Progressive Party candidate, Libertarian Party candidate. We interviewed Governor Buddy Roemer, who at the time was a presidential candidate from the right. We interviewed Jill Stein, who was a presidential candidate from the left. And at that time, I had already given up on the duopoly and understanding that being a party to the parties is not making progress. Understanding the history of how the presidential debates was taken over by the Commission on Presidential Debates, which has labeled itself as this nonpartisan institution, but clearly, since the Commission on Presidential Debates has taken over the debates since in 1988, I believe it is, from the League of Women Voters at the time, we have only seen two parties in presidential debates ever since, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The last big third-party candidate that even made it into the debates was Ross Perot in the 80s, in that 88 election. Some folks got together and said, hey, we're tired of Obama, Romney, Obama, Romney, Obama, Romney. I mean, get over it. I mean, there's Jill Stein, Rocky Anderson, Ron Paul, I'm forgetting the other fellows. There was like 5 or 6 alternative party candidates, and they organized a third party candidate debate, and Tom Hartman moderated it. Larry King moderated it. It was broadcasted live on Free Speech TV, on Aura TV, on Link TV, on Democracy Now!, on all these outlets, independent media outlets, and something like 20 million people saw this debate. It, for me, really opened the door of no longer compromising anytime I ever go to the ballot box, compromising on my morals and my beliefs and my values, and standing up for myself. When I vote for someone to represent me, I want to pick the best candidate that I possibly can, that I most agree with. And I saw that I was covering the lead up to the election at the time. I interviewed Buddy Roemer. We interviewed Jill Stein. And we saw the third-party debates. And we covered them. We broadcasted it. We talked about it on our show a lot of times. That was in 2012. And then life happened for a year and a half. And then fast forward to probably 2 months ago, I got a phone call completely out of the blue from a fellow named Zach Carter, who Zach is kind of the real fundamental individual behind Open Debates 2016. And Zach gave me a call and we talked. And I had actually worked with Zach in the past. And I also had interviewed Ben Swan last year when he questioned President Obama on the kill list at the time. And Zach Carter reached out to me. Zach explained to me that he was the guy behind the open debate in 2012 for the alternative party candidates. I said, holy cow, you're that guy that organized that thing? I didn't know that. And then Zach explained to me what they're doing. They're doing it again to kind of get ready for the next election cycle. And when they organized the debate in 2012, he did it in a matter of like 2 months' time. And now they're trying to really get the ball rolling and have enough time to make it a much bigger thing for 2016. I guess where I fit in the whole mix is on the side of the so-called like independent media commentator outlet partner, whereas Zach is kind of the initiator, organizer, and I'm kind of providing a voice of agreement, of solidarity, saying, clearly the system is messed up. We've got problems. We got to fix them. One of the best ways to do it is to, open the debate a little bit. I think it's time that we open the presidential debates to all the presidential candidates. It only seems fair. And and it was not hard for me at all to throw my support, whatever little weight that carries, and the support of Filter Free Radio behind the project. And anything that I can do to make I would call them, to make the real mainstream candidates a part of the mainstream. Anything I can do, I'm for it. So I told Zach, hey, sign me up. I'll talk about it. I'll promote it. I've interviewed Ben Swan. We're going to do another interview coming up about it. We've talked to Zach. I played some of what Zach had to say on the show. Really kind of doing what little bit I can to make it a bigger success. And the other thing I really like about the Open Debates 2016 group of folks so far is, we're all like coming from completely radically different ideologies and from different spectrums and things, and it's just like IVN, and it's demonstrating that we can talk to each other, not at each other. We can make progress, move forward, not go backwards, and work together because we're all in it together, and we the people have the power. Something like that.
Do you know, I know it's still kind of early, but anything about the structure of the debates? If it would be like a normal presidential debate, just outside of the normal people who run it? Or is it, do you have like a different structure? Because you said that you're going to be an independent, I don't know what title to give you, just like analyst or voice. Are you going to be like asking questions, or would you just be like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. When it comes to the debates, the goal is like when they organized the 2012 debates, they had Tom Hartman and Larry King moderate it, and we think, and Zach believes, that having that kind of celebrity moderator status really makes a big difference in how many people tuned in, and they got about 20 million-ish eyeballs on what they did in 2012. So I think when it comes to the debates, the goal is to get celebrity-like moderators, Larry King or the Tom Hartmans. I've talked with Zach personally about a couple of the names, which he said cannot go public yet, and so I can't say anything. But I'll just say that I'm super excited about who might be moderating the debates, and I wouldn't be a moderator. I would just be one of the other independent media outlets that is covering the debates, streaming the debates, talking about the debates, trying to get more eyeballs on them and engage folks in them. And the idea, to the best of my knowledge, the plan is to create bring debate back to the debates, where candidates are actually asked real questions from real people that have not been, prepared for and scripted, and as well as, have a real debate, have audience participation, have real follow-ups, actual debates rather than just rehearsed sound bites that we've had now for decades and decades. And, nobody likes scripted presidential debates. It's way past time that we make it transparent, we make them open, we make them honest, and we include all of the voices who are participating. I mean, if you are a presidential candidate, you should be a part of the presidential debate. I thought. I don't know.
Not too much stretch.
Who knows? That might be that's a pretty radical idea.
Okay. That's pretty much everything. I guess I'd want to finish off asking kind of what's been one of the most rewarding aspects of your work so far. It talks about a lot of hardships and how it's been tough, whether it's viewers or gathering money, but clearly you're passionate about what you do. So I guess what do you like the most out of what you do? what part of it is the most rewarding?
That's a tough question. I think the best thing about what I do is I really believe in it. I really believe that there is a moral obligation to the future generations and to those of us who came before. I mean, like I said, I'm only 25 years old, so I'm in part of the people who are going to have to deal with this for the next 50 years. Hopefully, I'll live for 50 more years. And and in the group of the people who are just now kind of waking up and realizing, holy cow, what's going on here? The most rewarding thing for me is every time I participate in action and I get active personally, whether it's I go show up at the protest at City Hall, or I go shop at my local independent mom and pop shop, I always feel good. Like I can't describe it. It's like an internal sensation. Like my conscience is cheering me on. Like woohoo! We're doing the right thing. And the most one of the most motivating things for me is positive things is all of the what little feedback I do get, what little interaction we get on our Twitter or our Facebook or in the chat room during the show. 9 out of 10 times is pretty positive. People like that we're trying to do something that not many other people are doing, and to provide the people with more examples of how we can get active and change the status quo, provide the means for the people to get active, I feel is part of a moral duty to myself and to my future. And I mean, if I would like to have a kid at some point one day in my life. I want to leave them a better world than I received myself. So it's a hell of a task to take on. The struggle is never ending. It's a never ending struggle, and to grasp the idea that we're trying to fight for things that we may never see in our lifetime, and to hold ideas that are so outside of what everyone else is thinking and doing is discouraging. But you can never let despair set in. And getting active, every time I get active and I participate, I show up at the protest, I feel so good. It makes me feel wonderful. It's like a high, it's just, you're out there, you're pumped, you're feeling good, you're meeting new people, like-minded people who agree that the whole thing is messed up and we're trying to do something about it, and you feel so good that you leave. Every time I've ever gone to a protest, I leave more inspired, more motivated than I ever did when I got there. And you just got to keep up the good fight and hang in there and ride the waves and keep on fighting, I guess.
That's all we can do.
That's all we can do, man. That's all we can do. But for what it's worth, it's just I think it's not until people are really personally affected by things that they wake up. And you see that the people who are active have some sort of personal struggle in their own lives that most people never share publicly, and which is cool. It's personal things, but it's unfortunate that it has to get to a point where people have to be personally affected before they do anything. And I never want to say anything or think anything like not enough people are hurting enough. I don't want anyone to hurt, but it's like, it has to hit home sometimes for people to make a difference. And most people, they don't do anything. They remain silent because they think they don't have no power. And I just say, hey man, we the people have the power. There is no force stronger than organized people. And when the people lead, the leaders will follow. I mean, history is full of examples of real solutions. I mean, the solution is not rocket science. It's not anything that no one has figured out yet. For the most part, it's organized people demanding what they want. Movements bring about real change. History shows that everything that we have today that we take for granted, 40-hour work week, weekends, child labor laws, minimum wage, somewhat equal rights, we have these things because we fought for them. And if there's anything else that we'd like, we better fight for it. And if there's anything else I can add, I would just add the most important first step for people is to shut out the poison. Turn off the corporate media. Read a book. Read anything by Chris Hedges, Derek Jensen, Howard Zinn. I mean, just read a book. Start there.
That's simple. Okay.
If there's anything else, if you can think, another question or anything comes up, Logan, I'm more than happy to do another interview. If there's anything I can do to help, by all means, man, fire away.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a good rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll be in touch again.
Great. Thank you, Logan. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. It's been a fantastic ride, this episode. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. All the way from back to the beginning, from freeing our elections and the lawsuit happening in New Jersey to the coal protests, and ending with the article there by Logan Brown. Again, you can find the link to that at our website, filterfreeradio.com. More voters turn to independent media for content they can trust by Logan Brown. The website, ivn.us. And it was a pleasure doing that. The article is fantastic. And thanks again to Logan for doing that and for reaching out to me and wanting to do an interview. I mean, hey, bring it on. The more the merrier. So on that note, I am like flat out of time, and I got to thank everyone who makes the show possible. First and foremost, our super duper awesome mass producer, co-host, kick-ass all around, brother from another mother, Mr. Skeptical Scott, who had the night off this evening. You want to see what Scott's talking about, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Filter-Free Radio, to see what Scott has been talking about this week. Scott's going to be back next program, so no worries. I got to thank Nicole Sandler for syndicating us on radioornot.com. Thanks to Kenny Pick for syndicating us on Liberal Justice Radio, on TuneIn Radio, and A Online Radio. Special thanks to our special guest, Chad Peace, legal advisor to IVP and the National Legal Strategist for the InPartisanship.org Coalition. Thanks so much, Chad, for coming on the program. Thanks to Kevin McLeod of Incompetech.com. Thanks to DanoSongs.com for music production. Thanks to our website guru, Shanovu. And thanks to our listeners, our friends, for liking the show, spreading the word. That's how we grow. Thank you. Big thanks to everyone in the chat room. Love you guys. Love the conversation. Appreciate you very much. Huge thanks to JD Fishin, the official puppy sitter of Filter Free Radio, without whom I would not be able to do this program. And remember, we need you to help participate, to make a difference, to get active, to be the change, to make it happen. And we can do it. We'll see you next week. Peace, love, rock and roll, all that good jazz.
Filter Free Radio.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. So give me something to believe, 'cause I am living just to believe, and I need something more to keep on breathing for. So give me something to believe.
The revolution will be broadcast
Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. Filter Free Radio.